Hey there YouTube, how you doing? Robert Summers once again coming to you. We're going to talk about a real interesting topic today. We're going to talk about narcissism and the correlation that exists with arrested development, or what we would call emotional arrested development. Now, sometimes you may hear the term fixation of the brain, probably a good medical term to use as it pertains to arrested development. But I really want to talk about that today. So take a listen to this today. Do me a favor, subscribe, hit the subscribe button if you like this, and also hit the like button, share the video. We definitely appreciate those of you that have been sharing our videos. We're getting up there in our number of hits and the number of subscribers, so we want to continue to get that to grow, because we believe that we're really helping people based on the feedback that we're getting from you guys, specifically here on YouTube. So anyways, so let's talk about narcissism and arrested development. Now, one of the things we do here is we do coaching, relationship coaching, life coaching, financial coaching, deliverance coaching, and a lot of times people will come to me as their life coach and relationship coach, and they'll tell me about how they feel that their spouse has narcissistic characteristics. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're a narcissist, but they have some narcissistic characteristics, or they may even say that their husband or wife is a narcissist. And as we go down the path of discovery and learning more about this and getting them to understand why things are the way they are, why there's behaviors either in themselves and then of course in their spouse. See, it's important that we understand why it is we behave the way we do. That's one of the major keys of deliverance, healing, wholeness, and soundness, and having a healthy life, is that the human brain needs to understand, why am I like this? Why do I behave like this? Why do I respond like this? Why do I trigger like that? So we're never going to get to a place of healing, deliverance, wholeness, and healthiness in our soul if we don't understand that. So one of the things that we do in our coaching sessions is really get people to understand why it is. It's not about excuses, okay? We don't believe that there's an excuse for behaving a certain way. Whether that's depression, whether that's you're consistently rejected, codependent, consistently finding yourself in a place where you're attracted to those that are controlling, manipulating, intimidating, dominating, or again have some type of narcissistic characteristics or personality. We need to understand why that exists. And one of the things that we're finding out is arrested development exists in both a person that's codependent as well as the narcissist. Narcissists are not born, okay? Or someone that has narcissistic characteristics. You're not born that way. That is a learned behavior over time. And I'm not going to focus so much today on all the different things pertaining to narcissism. We have enough videos, and we'll put more out there about that. But the correlation between a narcissist, okay, or again, somebody that has narcissistic characteristics, and arrested development. Now, what is arrested development? Well, arrested development is basically when emotionally we have not developed, or you can say emotionally we have not grown up. And by the way, I wrote a book, it's entitled The Petrified Soul, and it talks in detail about this thing called arrested development. And again, arrested development is when our emotions do not grow. So our emotions can be stuck at a particular place. And one of the things that I'm finding out is, again, whether you're finding yourself being codependent consistently, entering into toxic or septic relationships, actually attracting, in some cases, narcissistic type people into your life, or controllers into your life, abusers into your life. It's because emotionally you may be stuck. And then we're finding also on the other side that a narcissist, okay, that as we journey backwards and look deeper into his or her life, we're finding that there were points, there were trauma points where the person became arrested in their emotional development. And of course, you know as well as I know that somebody that's a narcissist, or again, has narcissistic tendencies or characteristics, they typically act like a child. Okay, they will erupt. You may be married to someone who's a narcissist. You may be dating somebody that's a narcissist. You may be in a relationship with somebody that's a narcissist, or perhaps it's a family member, a loved one, mom or dad or child, whoever it may be, that's narcissistic. And they may have temper tantrums if you don't do what they want. I've seen people, they'll punch holes in walls, they'll throw things if they don't get their way, they'll storm out the house. If there's conflict, that I know of men that when there's just basic conflict in the house, and we're going to have conflict, which is about what it's about is about managing it. But there's conflict in a home, and maybe there's some dialogue that is perhaps rubbing the person the wrong way, and then all of a sudden they manifest and they're running out the door and spending the night at a hotel or going to the local bar or their friend's house or whatever it may be because they didn't get their way. And that's what it means when we have arrested development. Emotionally, we're stuck. So you can be a grown man. You could be 20, 30, 40, upwards. I've talked to people in their 70s that in some area their emotions are arrested and they're stuck. And again, if somebody is a narcissist or has those tendencies, then they're probably very frustrated in their own life because they don't know who they really are. So they created this pseudo-identity known as narcissism that is abusive and does look to control people and hurt and wound people. But at the end of the day, the narcissists themselves are wounded and hurt. And therefore, they will retaliate to anesthetize that particular hurt that they have. But in my dealings in coaching couples and people through this, is that we get to a place where I ask the question to a narcissist or someone who's codependent, the one being, what you may refer to as the victim of the narcissist, although I personally do not believe that you're a victim. I believe you're an overcomer. But we go back and there's some trauma that existed. If we can get the narcissist to open up, which is always a challenge, but if we can get that narcissist to open up, then we'll find out that there's some type of trauma. And this is how arrested development starts, is there's some type of trauma. Now understand this, that we as people, we as human beings, we as, those of us that have been made in God's image and likeness as humanity, every person as a young child between the age of 0 and 12 or 13, we all need basic things. We need mom and dad there, and we need mom and dad to love us, to affirm us, to validate us, to support us, to correct us when necessary, to teach us, to protect us. Those are some basic things that we need in life. And when any of those is missing, that can cause problems. And when it typically causes a problem is when trauma is introduced into our life. Now, you can't avoid trauma in all cases, okay? We hope to, but sometimes things are out of our control. For example, the death of a family member, a loved one, a mom or a dad, or a brother or sister when we're young, maybe some catastrophic event, an accident, witnessing something, dramatic like a killing or a car accident or whatever it may be. That can become trauma. I mean, trauma can be falling off your bike when you were a kid, and if you did that and experienced that trauma and you fell off the bike and you scraped your knee or your elbow or your hands, you probably got up and you were crying and you looked around and either your mom and or dad were there, or you ran home to your mom and or dad, and you look for them to comfort you. You look for them to let you know it's okay. You look for them to clean you up, to kiss your little boo-boo and put you back on your merry way and let you know that, we support you, we're there for you, you're going to be okay. And that's reassuring to a young child. Again, we're talking about the developmental years, 0 to 12, roughly 13. And when that happens, we feel that we have a support system, when we feel valuable, value is ascribed to us, we're affirmed, we're validated, we feel confident emotionally. When that doesn't happen, and let's say trauma comes in, specifically, and I've talked to people that have actually fallen off bikes, and when they were young, maybe 5 or 6 or whatever, they fell off the bike, and maybe dad was being real hard and thought he was going to teach his son, how to be a man, which is not correct as far as the way he did it, and say, hey, get up, don't be a little girl, don't be a baby about it, man up or whatever. Well, again, emotionally, we're talking about emotionally, a child is not developed. He's learning how to handle his emotions. In some cases, the chemicals aren't even released in the brain to be able to handle certain things emotionally. That's why God gave us parents, mom and dad. So when that fails for whatever reason, perhaps it's dysfunctional parents. Okay, perhaps it's parents that they themselves have been wounded or abused and have different type of problems. Perhaps parents are narcissists. But when that doesn't happen, that's trauma. And when trauma comes in, we look around and say, okay, how do I handle this? So if I don't have the help of somebody to get me through the trauma, I begin to, as a young child, begin to open up my mind to listen to various voices saying things like, they don't love you, they don't care, you're not wanted, you're not valuable. And we can think on something so long that becomes a stronghold in our mind that we can actually open the door to darkness coming into our life, and over time that can set us in our ways. As we get older and we begin to go into teenage years and early adult years and stuff like that, we begin to enter into relationships with other people. We find out that we don't know how to handle things emotionally because we're stuck. We're stuck at the point of trauma. Okay, whatever that trauma may be. In the basic traumas, the 5 basic traumas that are very common, one would be rejection from original family members, mom, dad, siblings. That's what's in the family. If there's rejection of you, or you've been rejected by original family members, again, that is trauma because that's not supposed to happen. And we begin to, like I said, open up the mind, and we listen to the negative voices that may be coming from other people. You're stupid, you're dumb, you're ugly, you're fat, you're too light, you're too dark, you should have been a boy, or you should have been a girl, or you're just like your mother, you're just like your father. All this negativity, that's rejection. We're being rejected when parents don't put time into a child, don't go to perhaps some events, or don't talk, or just constantly, maybe they're always at work and you're a latchkey kid. That can breed rejection, and rejection is trauma. And then again, here as a young child, you're sitting there saying, okay, how do I reconcile this emotionally? And you don't know how. So that trauma can freeze you at that point. So I know people, I could talk to somebody that they're 60 years old, and in certain cases or in certain spots of their life, they're frozen at the point of some trauma. Maybe it's a son who was abused by mother, where mother didn't have that proper bonding, that birth bonding that the mother should have throughout life, where she teaches you things emotionally, how to handle things. Perhaps she abused that. Or perhaps she was angry because her husband or her boyfriend left you pregnant, and now here you are, and your mother actually ends up emotionally marrying you as a young boy. How do you handle that? You don't know how. So that can freeze you because there's going to be control, manipulation, and so on from mother to you as a young boy. If it's a young girl, perhaps it was some issues with your dad. Dad wasn't there. Dad didn't teach you how to value yourself and how to, let you know how a man should treat you and so on. Again, devaluation of self. That's all rejection, and when that happens, again, you open up your mind to fill in the blanks, and the lies of the enemy can come in, and you can see yourself in a way that's not correct. You can devalue yourself based on that trauma, and your emotions can be arrested at the point of trauma. Molestation is huge. Incest. And those would be 2 more. If there's molestation, I know of people that have been molested at a very young age, 3, 4, 5. They remember the trauma. upwards to, even later on in life, even into teen years. And that shouldn't happen. I mean, that's insidious. And when that happens, a child, in this case perhaps a girl, she's stuck at that point of trauma, at that point of the molestation, which is trauma. I do want to say something about molestation, is don't always think that molestation is sexual intercourse. Molestation can include touching a child in a private area for non-medical reasons, okay, inappropriately, masturbating in front of a child, fondling a child, exposing yourself to the child, showing that child perhaps pornography on television. I know of people, I've coached people where they had to sit there and watch their parents have sexual intercourse as a young child, even brought into the bedroom at the age of 4, 5, 6, and so on. And again, that right there will traumatize, and if it's not handled correctly, then that point of trauma can arrest the emotional development to where now you get older, you're still acting in some cases or in some areas like a child. You don't know how to handle situations, okay? And then of course verbal abuse, okay, which is self-explanatory, and then physical abuse, beatings, throwing dishes, scratchings, burnings, beating kids with extension cords or pieces of wood, throwing objects at them, fighting, pulling hair, pushing, shoving. The verbal abuse could be, cussing, screaming. I mean, I'm just amazed that parents cuss their children out. I was down in Florida one time, and we were at a Walmart, and a mother grabbed her child and yanked the child, and then let go of the child's hand, and she kept on walking, and just looked back and said, "Come on," and she just rattled off a bunch of profane words at that child. And what is that saying to the child? So again, a child doesn't know how to handle that. And when we become stuck emotionally, again, now we have to, as we get older, self-medicate. We look to swing the pendulum, but typically it goes too far. So with a narcissist, okay, or somebody that's narcissist, chances are there was tremendous trauma in their life. Maybe they were young and they didn't get the attention that they were looking for, so they begin to act out as a child. And when they acted out, rather than being dealt with properly, the parents didn't care. They didn't care what the child did, or they just gave in to the child. Whatever the child wanted, the child got. Well, the behavior that occurs over time is that, and it's a mindset that says, well, I can just do anything and people are going to comply to me. That could be the genesis of a narcissist or somebody that has narcissistic personality disorder. So again, but typically there's some trauma, and that's one of the things that we're always looking for, is to find out what trauma, what wound is open in both the narcissist and or the one that is always in the feeder system or the net of the narcissist. So again, it's something that you need to look at. From my perch in the tree, I'm seeing that there's a lot of that in people, a lot of arrested development, and that's okay. We can reset the emotional development process in a specific area once we talk to you, get you to understand what's going on, and then of course it comes down to your discipline and the decisions that you make in life. But clearly healing belongs to you, deliverance belongs to you, and you should be living a healthy life. We can help you in that. So again, arrested development has you frozen at the point of trauma, and then later on in life, especially if something is very similar to that particular trauma or that event and the emotions that went with it, you won't know how to handle certain things. And you may find yourself lashing out, frustrated, angry, throwing something, temper tantrums like kids have, speaking like a child. I mean, just totally talking just like a child. And then behaving like a child. I mean, reverting back to childish ways. The Bible says, when I was a man, when I was a child, I spake as a child, but now that I've become a man, I put away childish things and I speak as a man. So again, that's what we should be doing, but we shouldn't be stuck at that point of trauma and acting out our selfish ways as an adult. And that's what happens with a narcissist. They are very selfish. It's all about them. Sounds like a kid, doesn't it? It's all about them. They don't play nice in the sandbox. They will hit, they will scream, they will fight, they will pull. It's all about them. My toys, my bottle, my bedroom, my pillow, everything's about them. And again, you take that same thing, and although the person has developed physically, they've developed intellectually, in some areas they have not developed emotionally. So that is a correlation with narcissism. So if you're seeing those type of patterns, you guys, it's good to understand what that is. And again, if you need more information, you want to talk to us, just go to our website, summersministries.com. Why not set up an appointment? We'll talk to you, set up an hour appointment. It'll be a great investment on your part, and people are getting a lot of that out of that. So again, just go to the website, summersministries.com. We appreciate you guys once again. Love you guys on YouTube. We love our YouTube followers, and please hit like, share the video, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you all pretty soon. We'll come out with some more videos. All right? Bye-bye.